The world is evolving at a faster pace than ever before, and as we begin the path to recovery after worldwide disruption, this podcast explores how the design industries can adapt to changing expectations and create a better future for both your businesses and your consumers. I'm Bethan Ryder, Editorial Director here at WGSN. You're listening to Create Tomorrow, the WGSN podcast. As some parts of the world have already left lockdown and others are looking forward to emerging as vaccine programmes roll out, the prospect of life as we once knew it looks like it may soon be in sight. So we're here to ask what's next for fashion. Over the past year, it's felt like stalemate. In our Groundhog existence, rarely has fashion seemed so, pragmatic. We've seen sweatpants, puffer coats, wellies and walking boots selling out across the globe, while our heels, our tailored workwear and dresses are gathering dust. So what does emerging from lockdown mean for fashion from a product perspective? We're here to take stock of all things sartorial for the consumer and women's wear in particular. Today I'm joined by some of my expert colleagues at WGSN to discuss the post-pandemic fashionscape. How do categories from workwear to occasion and partywear evolve? What are the opportunities for the outdoor market in fashion? And not forgetting the big question, what happens next to loungewear? Let me introduce our guests today. First up, we have Sara Maggioni, our head of women's wear. Hi, Sara. Where are you calling in from today?
Hi, Bethan. I'm calling from London.
We also are joined today by Sofia Martinelli, who's our content lead for Use Fashion, our Brazilian-based trend forecasting business. So where exactly in Brazil are you calling from, Sofia?
I'm calling from São Paulo.
So finally back to the UK, and we have Sarah Gasper, our head of data analytics in North East London. What's your choice of home uniform, Sarah?
Hi, Bethan. I'm wearing knitted trousers and a slouchy cardigan.
Oh, that is so on trend. I feel like that's something we're going to be talking about, like knitted fabrics and slouchy things. So let's dive in today. I think the big question is, I've just not been out of sweatpants. A lot of velour, joggers, and as someone the other day from WGSN described it, they hadn't worn a hard pant in a year. But as we emerge from this homebound period, I wonder, where is fashion for women heading and what's going to happen to loungewear? So I think we'll kick off with you, and I'm going to call you Sarah M for this podcast, Sarah, because we've got two Sarahs here. So what's next? Is our yearning for tactile cossetin fabrics going to continue? Where are we going with fashion? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? I mean, we are not going to be wearing sweatpants forever. I'm sure you are pleased. Many will be pleased to hear that, because they have truly created that kind of visual fatigue. We're a bit tired now. I think we need something different. But of course, they are not going to completely disappear. If I think with my kind of commercial head on, that category is not going to grow as fast as it has so far, but it is going to be bigger. So cut and sew, loungewear, sleep. Sarah G will probably say more about this. But we are expecting new iterations of loungewear. For example, moving away a little bit from the volume and the more kind of casual looks typical of hoodies and sweatpants, in favor of something a little bit sassier, a bit more bodycon, more details. And color is going to pick up again, for sure. We've had many seasons of beige. People are really rediscovering the mood-enhancing properties of color and that idea of dopamine dressing. I think, in general, it goes back to the fact that, comfort will be embedded into product a lot more. It doesn't necessarily mean sweatpants, but in general. And another really important thing is that we are going to have a duality, a balance. And that was very clear on the latest catwalks. Escapism was very high on the agenda, particularly for Gen Z, but also for the older generation as well, for the older demographic who's really eager to go back to live again, essentially. So we're going to see this balance of both.
Yeah, exactly. I did read a great quote that said that comfort will no longer be separate from fashion. People think of fashion often as not being comfortable and having to kind of suffer for fashion, but actually comfort and fashion are going to go hand in hand more and more. I wonder, Sarah G, if we could bring you in there actually about that and tell us from the sort of data, what's the story and what are the hero categories looking to be for autumn winter 21-22?
Sure. So Yeah, I think it's no surprise that lounge, sleep, and active were the hero categories of the past autumn-winter, and we've seen this across all our data sources, both from the supply and demand point of view. And to Sarah's point as well, I think the interest for lounge will continue as it's a lifestyle trend, and it ticks a lot of boxes because it's versatile and it's appealing to all demographics. And we know we'll be spending more time at home than in 2019, but how big can loungewear get? I think the renewed focus on comfort will remain, but retailers shouldn't expect the same level of interest post-pandemic, and the sweet spot lies between these two time periods. I'm excited for the newness in the knitwear category and how retailers are going to incorporate these comfort-led features into other categories beyond the sweatpant, for sure.
Yeah, I've been reading some interesting things about sort of innovation in knitwear fabrics and that moving into other categories. There's a lot going on there, I think. So I think, Sophia, how do you see this playing out in Brazil and the wider LATAM region? I think your winter begins in June, so you're a little bit different to us, but what do you think?
Yeah, we're a little behind, and even during the winter, our region's a lot warmer. So, of course, we'll still expect to see loungewear composed by sweatsuits and knitwear, like the girls were talking about. But we are also noticing an increased interest in sets that would otherwise be reserved for the beach or for vacations. So things that are very printed and very colorful. I think the renewed interest in color for the Latin region is especially important because we are a region that adores color. And prints as well. So we can definitely expect to continue to see these printed sets. There's a brand here in São Paulo called Calma that does this very well. I agree with Sarah M. I think we'll see a lot more of lighter knitwear or bodycon knitwear that, again, especially for Brazilians, make a lot more sense since we don't need that level of warm clothes. So this is something to expect.
I'm going to move now which is a little strange, from the beach to the office, because I think talking about sort of coming out of the sweatpants, I am stumped as to how things will pan out in offices. I mean, I've just bought a sweatshirt dress myself, and I'm thinking, will that work in the office with trainers? Will we all be dressing like dress down Fridays? I think there's some interesting things we've been tracking here about work leisure, and there's some data you've got, Sarah G, about this and how retailers are sort of reacting and what they're going to be doing with workwear, with incorporating comfort.
Yeah, definitely. And I think retailers were quite quick to react to this, at least from the communications point of view. We saw early on mentions of comfort increasing within product names and descriptions, particularly within the tailoring category. We've also seen introduction of elasticated waists and other comfort-led features. Something I wanted to point out as well is that from our consumer survey tool Barometer, we saw people browsing and buying products to be at home, which is obvious. But later on, we also saw an increase of people browsing and buying products to wear to work. So I think this kind of tells us that there's really a space for a new working wardrobe that is a bit more relaxed and comfy, and that consumers can wear both at home and in the office.
Yeah, should we talk a little bit about what some of those products are looking like, Sarah M? I've been reading a little bit on our site about things like tapered trousers. So you've got sweatpants that are kind of a little bit more tapered, a bit smarter for work. What kind of things are you seeing there emerging?
Yeah, the whole work leisure is going to be massive because even though many of us will go back to the office at some point, it's obvious that the scenario will be slightly different. We've already seen big tech companies kind of saying to their employees that they can work from home forever if they want to. We've seen various surveys. I know I've read a lot of surveys that kind of say that people like the idea of mixing it up a little bit. So it's clear that the whole home and leisure is increasingly blurred, and therefore the new lifestyle narratives of a post-pandemic world will definitely favor a more flexible approach to dressing. And As Sarah said, anything that looks good enough to go out, but it's comfortable enough to stay in, is going to thrive. So comfort is king. It's all about that hybridization of product, of categories. It's about, your suit, your jeans, your underwear, bras, your shirts, anything that normally has structure. It's about embedding comfort into them. It's not, yes, elasticated waists, absolutely, but it's also lighter weight materials for tailoring, for example. So that idea of work leisure, low-key bleisure looks, flex leisure, something that we've called out recently. So those leisure wear ranges that have that kind of sport look without looking too athleisure. So think about top weights with a lo-fi athletic feel, but combined with perhaps tailored chinos, relaxed trenches. So it's that idea of hybrid dressing that is definitely going to continue, and is going to, not just now, but as I said, post-pandemic, that idea of flexibility. Just think about the sneakers a few years ago. It seemed impossible for men or within a more formal attire to wear sneakers, and then it became quite the norm. The fashion sneakers became quite the norm. So it's kind of similar in that sense. That more relaxed look is going to continue.
And around this, you're saying, talking about the hybridization, I was reading that, it wouldn't be so much a blazer that you might wear, but a jacket or something that's sort of like somewhere between, like a relaxed version of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Or knitted blazers, for example. We are seeing a lot of development in jersey, cut and sew, so jersey wear with a bit more of a formal look and structure. So again, embedding comfort, but keeping the silhouette still quite formal and put together. Mm-hmm.
And Sophia, is that something, I don't know what stage you're at, whether you're going back into office, I know you're at home at the moment, are people in Brazil sort of going in some days of the week, or what's the situation there with working at the moment?
It's a bit messy because we were pretty open until a couple of weeks ago. São Paulo, which is where I am, is now closed. We're in lockdown again, but unfortunately we don't really have a plan on when are we going back. But before that we were pretty open, and you could see people on the streets, and I would say that it's pretty much a mix. I think there's a lot of people that were kind of dressing as they used to dress, which was a bit surprising for me. As for other people, there was a bit of an identity crisis that we noticed. People forgot how to dress. They were feeling weird when they were dressed up, when they were in formal wear. So I saw people in athleisure to the office, which was before it wasn't accepted, but it was kind of weird. And people are just trying to figure it out. I've noticed that women are wearing a lot less heels. I think they're not ready to put on some heels back on.
So clearly there are a lot of people out there looking forward to socialising again. I know that around New York Fashion Week there was a lot of talk about how we're going to go back and it'll be like the Roaring '20s and everyone's going to go crazy. But there's a big question mark, right, over party wear and occasion wear. It's been hit really hard by the pandemic and the fact that nobody's been going out. So I love that you touched upon this earlier, Sarah M, about these kind of divergent attitudes that are emerging here, which is the kind of super glam escapist versus the comfy party. Can you talk a little bit about that to us?
Yeah, sure. There will be both. The main direction at scale, at commercial level, will be around the casualization of party wear. So, of course, high-low styling, more versatile items that offer better cost per wear. So, essentially, items that you can wear from day to night, indoors to outdoors, and also within a more casual context. So, and also what I was saying before, the whole idea of like developing jerseys, so corsets and dresses that have that more formal appeal, but they retain that comfort. So we have quite a lot of trends around that: comfy party, high-low dressing, house party. But of course, many of us will also want to buy something that we haven't been able to get hold of until recent time, until now, something a bit more special, and that really celebrates that joy of dressing. And this is also, Beth, and geographically, it's really important because, we have markets such as China and India, for example, they're recovering really strongly already. So things are going to play out differently depending on the regions as well.
I know certainly among my age group, which is Gen X, there's a lot of talk about people wanting to go out and get a gold pair of boots or a gold pair of shoes, or just something that's just going to bring them joy. That seems to be, and that goes anywhere, right? So
I've just done that. Cowboy boots, actually.
Have you?
Gold cowboy boots. So,
Brilliant. Okay, I mean, Sophia, tell me a little bit about party wear in Brazil and what you can see happening there. Is it the same sort of casualization happening?
Yeah. We do like to party down here. So we definitely see the casualization of party wear, especially within the younger generation, so Gen Z. And we noticed that people are no longer saving items for like special occasions. They started to incorporate them into day-to-day styling, like Sarah said, through high-low compositions. So we expect to see that separates will grow in importance in party wear as well. And I think there's a lot of people that miss dressing up to go out. We just had our carnival canceled, which is a huge celebration here in Brazil. So people want to have more fun with fashion again. So I believe that brands could really leverage that into their advantage. So Latin Americans can be very over the top when it comes to party wear. So it would be interesting kind of to see how this plays out in a more casual occasion.
It's interesting. I was reading on our site about this sort of these trends towards like cutout and subversive sexy, and these sort of outfits that you presumably could wear to work, and then you whip off a jacket and you've got like a sexy back that's exposed. I mean, that's something, right, Sarah M., that we're seeing more and more, sort of hidden details that are sexy and things.
Yeah, absolutely. We are seeing that sassier aesthetic. It's also more flattering on screen. If we continue to think about above the keyboard dressing, it's a little bit more flattering, a bit more put together. But in general, we are seeing a lot of experimentation with cutouts and pattern play to kind of, a new take on classic silhouettes.
And what are we seeing? What are we tracking there with data, Sarah G? What's the picture looking like with the casual versus flamboyant?
I think this is a big, difficult question from a data perspective. I mean, we've seen on the catwalk both ends, leggings, t-shirts, sweatpants, but equally these more occasion-led styles, particularly in London, and those kind of more like party-led details. And also on social media, mentions of escapism and party are also up at the same time as like sweatpants and stay at home. So there's so many unknowns and confounding factors here that, what I can say is that we'll be tracking this very closely through different lenses and make sure that we can anticipate the change.
And it makes it tricky for retailers, I mean, to sort of really be prepared for this sort of disparity and this sort of demand fluctuation. I wonder, I don't know if that's a bit of a tricky question, but is any ideas about really how to advise on that? Sarah M., would you just sort of say, be aware that there's going to be this great dichotomy and you need to serve both customer?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think it's going to be, as Sarah said at the beginning, that soft spot, that balance will be absolutely key. So the narrative around more kind of familiar and practical product and comfort will continue, but it's going to be key, it's going to be very important to also address that post-vaccine mentality as well.
We discussed in episode 20 the retail and omnichannel future in our podcast, and we talked a lot about that, about how consumers will feel in the future will really impact purchasing decisions, which is something we've also covered in our Future Consumer 2023 white paper, which is out now, actually. So I wonder, Sarah M., how you think the consumer mindset might differ in this post-COVID global recession, because it is different from the 2008 global recession, which presumably we have some data on, some information, WGSN. So how do you see that sort of affecting the consumer mindset, this different recession?
Well, there will certainly be some similarities because we are going into a mega recession, and so there will be that kind of post-recession mentality, recessionary mentality. So the rise of stealth wealth, what happened in 2008, the rise of stealth wealth, so people didn't want to brag about their wealth. So that, that idea of minimalism, of more practical and functional product, understated details. If we think about it, Celine's Phoebe Philo's Celine minimalism was really at its peak. And it also back then, there was the boom in athleisure. That's when it really started, and clean eating, because as priorities and tastes change, so did the status symbol and the spending. So we have a similar scenario here, in a sense that we have this big recession coming, and people will be more cautious with their spending, particularly Gen Z. We've called it, it's been called the recessionary generation. But also what's similar is that the priorities towards wellness and well-being are also there. So what we also have this time is that the consumer is a lot more sensible to sustainability and overproduction, which we didn't have. It wasn't as pronounced back in 2008, 2009. So as I was saying, that narrative around simple silhouettes, timeless, seasonless, the idea of a modular wardrobe is going to continue. However, the key difference here is that last time we didn't have a massive pandemic that kept us confined to our homes, wearing sweatpants for months and months on end. So the escapism aspect will be 100% there. And we talked about special product, but the most commercial interpretations will be through color and print. We've been talking about the power of print. They will be key differentiators, but in general, that would be the main difference from the 2008 recession.
I think that's really interesting about the stealth wealth with luxury. I've been reading about an awful lot about how that's going to be demonstrated through fabric, and people want that cossetin, that tactile. They want to be enveloped in lovely, rich, soft fabrics. And obviously with the sustainability factor as well, presumably we're going to see lots of innovation with those luxury brands, making sure supply chains are sort of coming through, as well as creating these beautiful, soft fabrics that people are just going to feel sort of safe in, really, I guess. I suppose the other difference is that we have a she session, in that COVID did affect the female workforce more than the male, which is very, very different from other previous recessions. So I'm thinking presumably the value market, if you like, in fashion has also got a huge sort of opportunity there to try and meet those consumers that are going to be have much less money to spend, basically. So I guess that's where we come in with the modular and the cross-functional clothing and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and there's idea, as I was saying earlier, of product that is more functional, dual function product, cost per wear, all of that is going to remain really, really important, because people are going to be more cautious with their money.
If I can just jump in real quick. So for LATAM, there's some data points that LATAM will be the region that will be the most affected by the COVID crisis. So what Sarah M is saying about having things that are dual function, even when we talk about party wear and comfort wear, it makes sense, because I need to be able to buy something that I will not only wear to one occasion or one type of occasion. So I just wanted to add in that this is something that is crucial for LATAM brands to offer, like really make clear that outfit can work for different occasions and they have different properties to it.
I think we want to go now to the sort of final segment of the podcast, which to talk about the outdoors, really. And I can see this behaviour sticking. I mean, if I think about the growth in park life, I mean, you walk around at the weekend, it's the closest you can get to a scene in any sort of urban any city, I think, around the world at the moment. And there are also big shifts happening in urban policy. Recently, Stockton-on-Tees in the north of England, they're building a riverside park instead of a retail park. So I think we're going to continue to embrace this outdoor living, even though presumably we think some aspects of life are going to return to sort of normal. So how's that impacting fashion? I have been trying to get a pair of wellies for the last few weeks and they're just sold out. But what do the figures say on this, Sarah G, if I can come to you? What are people buying right now? And with this sort of outdoor shift, what do you see that sort of continuing?
Yeah, definitely. I think the outdoors trend is something we've been talking about for a little while at WGSN, and we recently saw, both consumers and retailers putting a new emphasis on these outdoor products, from outerwear to accessories, and also like technical properties. And this links back to the wider trend of self-care, and we also saw mentions of hiking and walking that have been in continuous growth for the past months, and even consumers searching for easy hikes near me. For example, we recently worked on a report called Brands to Watch, and we've seen outdoor brands being added to the portfolios of high-end luxury retailers, indicating that it has this luxurious appeal as well, and an indication that it's likely to continue and there will be innovation going on in that space.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, I think if I think about the sort of top 1% who are now not able to sort of jet off and go on fancy holidays at the moment, presumably there is a huge opportunity there to have them kitted out in top-notch outdoor wear. So that sounds like that's what retailers and brands have been jumping on, which is very wise. Should we go to you, Sophia, and see if that's the same for you?
Yeah,
with sort of outdoor wear.
So there are a lot of people that want to travel, of course, but the borders of Brazil are pretty much closed. So there's a huge increase in local tourism, which in Brazil especially means going to different beaches, mainly because we have a huge coast. So that can lead to an increase specifically in categories such as swimwear or vacation wear. And even if we talk about going to the countryside and taking hikes, which did increase, we saw increase, for instance, in the search for motorhomes. Here in our region, it's usually associated to hiking to a waterfall. So there's still this factor of swimwear embedded in it. And I believe there's a great opportunity for brands to tap into this outdoor necessity of the consumers, because not a lot of brands here tapped into this market.
Great, that's really good advice. And just finally with you, Sarah, what new categories have you seen sort of emerging here? Have there been sort of new things happening to cater to this outdoor lifestyle?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is huge, absolutely huge. There's been so much hype around outdoor wear in general, the hike beasts, and that potential of kind of becoming the new streetwear. If we look at the Gucci and North Face collaboration, for example. So it's going to create real opportunities for brands. And as you said, it's here to stay. Even when we are going to travel, it doesn't matter. I think people have really seen, realized the benefits of being outdoor and of being in open air. So we've been talking loads at WGSN of the concept of friluftsliv, which is translated from Norwegian as open air living. And it's kind of the latest Scandinavian concept set to reach, I suppose, the same popularity as hygge. By the way, sorry to any Scandinavians in the audience that I'm completely mispronouncing. But it's really about it's not so much, this is what's key here. It's not necessarily about activewear, right? It's about embracing outdoors-driven lifestyles. That means, think about how that mindset will impact future ranges. For fashion, this can include everything from blanket capes for alfresco dining to rainproof coating, cozy knitwear. So it doesn't, and as Sarah was saying, fabric innovation, embedded properties. So it doesn't have to be just activewear in the sense how we know it, but there are opportunities across, outdoor proof clothing beyond outerwear as well. confident layering, detachable components. If we are going to spend more time outdoors, from socializing to partying, to going for a hike, we are going to want more options. It's not just about heavy coats and activewear.
Thank you so much to Sophia Martinelli, Sara Gasper and Sara Maggioni for talking with me on today's show. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, then please subscribe to the show, which is available on all major podcast platforms. If you really like what you've heard, then please leave us a rating and review it on iTunes. If you're interested in what we've been talking about today, then please head over to wjsn.com to find out how you can get access to all of our insight and analysis. We're constantly publishing new content around how we can design a better, brighter future for our industry. Thanks again to our guest this week, and I'd also like to thank our podcast producer, Roland Bodenham. And again, thank you for listening. We'll be back in 2 weeks for the next episode, so until then, stay well dressed and healthy, and we'll see you next time.